Hello and welcome to the Healthy Empath podcast. Today I am joined with Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan. She is a globally recognized holistic Chinese medicine doctor, speaker, coach, and author of the amazing Amazon #1 best-selling book, Super Wellness. Her journey began in 2003 after a series of meditation-induced mystical experiences that changed her perception of human possibilities forever. Since then, she has devoted her life to unlocking the secrets of our human potential. Her work weaves together ancient wisdom with the latest in science, medicine, and spirituality. All right, Dr. Edith is awesome, kind, compassionate woman, and I'm so happy to talk to her. She's got a great book. She does a great podcast. She has a very extensive academic background with a doctoral degree from Five Branches University in endocrinology and neuromuscular medicine, a 4-year grad degree, American College of Traditional Chinese Medicine, bachelor's magna cum laude in applied mathematics from Harvard University. So she has very extensive background, and she's also just really someone who is embodied in herself, right? Knows who she is and just went on the hero's journey, and now is experiencing and expressing her soul and her gifts to the world. So thank you very much for being here. Let's get started.
Thanks for having me. Mike, we were just chatting right before we started hitting record that it's so beautiful these days that we get to connect with soul family. We're all coming out of the woodworks and recognizing that we're all sharing basically the same thing. But there's a reason that essence of what we're sharing can be candy wrapped in different ways. So it's delicious to different people, So it's so nice that we get to reconnect, I should say, not connect, and just support each other and learn and grow together.
Absolutely. Everyone has their own little special sauce to put on the package. Yes. Yeah, I got lots of chills. I'm feeling good. So can you start us off just by going into your health journey? Yeah, how did you get to become an expert in the health field?
It's funny you say expert because I just feel like a student, I'm just like all your audience, I'm sure, just learning and growing and being curious and asking lots of questions. And I wrote this book called Super Wellness because, as you mentioned, I have a bunch of degrees, and, in school, we learn all this philosophy. We learn all this academics. And then in real life, you kind of start wondering why real life isn't quite like what they say in the textbooks. And you apply a lot of the stuff you learn in textbooks. For me, as a clinician, as a practitioner of almost 2 decades now, and I keep scratching my head. Like they say, like a lot of my clients and patients that come to me have probably, just like your audience, outgrown the old sick care system, right? You've woken up to the fact that health is not just the absence of disease and illness, that treating or curing conditions, there's a lot more to it than drugs and surgery. Like, I'm certain that every one of your audience has woke up to that already. But what about the next paradigm of you got to eat right and exercise? You got to eat right and exercise. And so my clients would come in and they're already eating a really clean, beautiful, organic diet, really precise with their food choices. They already work out regularly. They have yoga practice, Pilates practice, and so on. And I'm scratching my head at the number of people with complex, often quote unquote incurable, even though we know that doesn't exist, like incurable finger quotes, conditions come in, and I'm so confused. How much more could they do with their diet and exercise? Like I can't even find anymore, right? And then one day the question came to me, like the big light bulb, which now in hindsight seems so silly. It's like, what if diet and exercise isn't the number one key? What if the game changer is beyond that? And I bet a lot of your audience is in that space too, because you guys probably already eat pretty healthy, work out regularly, and so on. And maybe you still feel like there's a whole other level of health and wellness that's possible. And just like that, it was like the floodgates open, and you just got to laugh at how simple it really is. That we've been in some ways sold a bill of goods. Like we've been sold the storyline that our health and wellness has to be so complicated. But you guys, sorry, my crying baby is nap time. Should we go back to Baba?
A little guest.
Hi. I discovered that we've kind of been sold a bill of goods, that we think that health and wellness has to be so expensive and complicated. And the only reason for that is that we've kind of been indoctrinated into buying this story that our health comes from all these external things. And the reason for that is that there's a big marketplace for it. So, for example, I started realizing with my clients that whether they be high performance athletes that are looking for super high breakthrough performance in their sports competitions, or my patients that have those complex, often things like autoimmune complicated conditions, that it turns out the most simple, free self-care practices were the biggest game changers. Things like breathing practice. Things like making sure we spend time in nature, just basking in the sun, sleeping in complete darkness, and richness of human connection, like just taking time to reconnect with old friends, and forgiveness of past situations. Simple, commonsensical things turned out to be the biggest game changers for everybody. And I came to see that basically we've got the whole game backwards and upside down in this world. That was the conclusion I came to after a while, that because there's so much profit in driving people into this disempowering storyline, that health has to be so complicated. We have marketing and advertising bombarding us with messaging that, take this purple pill or whatever. But not only that, even in the diet and wellness industry, a lot of times we're sold commercials of like, healthy eating has to be so complicated. You need to know all these different complicated nuances to eat properly. When what I started discovering is that, wow, if we support people in deeply reconnecting with their own bodies, deeply listening to their own bodies, slowing down, practicing mindfulness of eating, people blew my mind open to the possibility that each individual human is their own best nutritionist. And so the support that is the biggest game changer is guiding people back into a way of listening deeply to what their bodies are trying to tell them. So bit by bit, little by little, gradually over about 2 decades, I discovered all these things that in essence, basically just returning people back to their own inner empowerment, and that health and wellness is actually that simple. And as a side effect of that, when you do have a situation where you want to seek help from a professional, from a nutritionist, from a health coach, that inner connection being alive allows you to get 10x or 100x the results than you could have before when you were not connected within yourself. Because that then at the end of the day, you realize that, wow, all these health coaches, doctors, so-called experts out there, actually, they're here to support me. They're here to help me live my most joyful and authentic life. Versus the old paradigm, which is like, I don't know anything about what I want. I don't know what how it works. I know nothing about how any of this works. So I'll just listen to whatever the doctor or expert out there says. And that's really how we got into this big hot mess to begin with. So simple, returning home back to ourselves.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. When you were describing that, especially in the beginning, what came to me was really, and you ended up saying slowing down too, but it was just like slowing down and being human. Right? When you were talking about, you just breathing, getting in nature and real darkness, it's just, if I had to, I guess, simplify that, and it's just really is just slowing down and being human, and what does a human need, and what are you even doing here as a human, kind of thing. and that we've lost touch with that humanity and with nature. And so we are, disconnected from all these different things, and then disconnected from our bodies. So then we don't even know where to start, and we get locked into that little bubble of just only being able to analyze food and exercise. I wrote a post today about like asking better questions or asking more powerful questions. So, and I used to think of that a lot too. So with these health issues, instead of like, is my macro ratio like, okay, like, do I need to rearrange that? Or, should I be doing this type of high intensity workout versus, this one? And like, those aren't the questions we need to be asking. We need to be asking, like, am I connected with myself? Am I nourishing my body? Like, what else could I be missing that my body isn't getting?
I should say, sorry to interrupt you. I should say that I did learn a lot studying all different kinds of like nutritional systems, but learning to take that kind of thinking and expanding it to our life. So let's say you've probably heard of this thing called the crowding out method in nutritional counseling. This idea that, let's say you have a client that's eating super junky foods, and you're like, don't eat the potato chips, don't eat the potato chips, don't eat the potato chips. Just like, that just doesn't work. That game does not work. Instead, support them in focusing their time, attention, and energy on having nutritious whole foods. Eating the colorful fruits and veggies, for example, as a side effect, they're nourished properly and they're likely to eat a lot less of the ice cream and potato chips, right? That's called the crowding out method. Well, the game changer for me is to realize that we need to apply the crowding out method to our whole life. That what is truly nourishing to you in your whole life, and give yourself that nurturance. And I call these actually essential nutrients, like breathing properly, like natural sunlight, like spending time connecting in nature, like sleeping in darkness, like rich interpersonal relationships, or downtime to chill out and do nothing but just be. Those are actually, I've discovered, essential nutrients for a human to thrive. And if you don't give yourself that, you're going to feel, quote unquote, hungry all the time. And if you're hungry all the time, it's kind of game over. You're going to grab those like potato chips and ice cream because you feel like there is something empty that needs to be fed somehow, right? So expanding. So I'm really grateful to all the tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars I spent on all of these different certifications in health and medical training, but actually taking that thinking and expanding it to just our human life. Like, how do we architect a human life where we're nurtured and nourished and supported in our well-being in a proper way?
Yeah. And that goes back to the questions too. So instead of maybe, should I do, vegan or paleo, the next month, like going deep within and asking, what am I actually hungry for?
Yes.
And really reflecting on that. One of the testimonials that I share often is someone I work with who, we did that work. She even got some type of stomach or like surgery or bariatric surgery to, for weight loss, and then still didn't lose weight. I was like, how's that even possible? And then we're doing a healing session, and we tapped in to that question, like, what are you actually hungry for? And she said, love. She started crying immediately, and it was like, it's almost like embarrassing to admit, or so hard to admit, but it was actually love. And then like ever since then, she just like drastically changed and like lost 100 pounds over a couple of years, and then continually kept it off from that switch of awareness and realizing, what are you actually hungry for? It might not be love, it might be just quiet, stillness, just darkness, all these things that you talk about.
Yes.
Yeah. So this actually is kind of coming up. So a little more, I want to hear what you have to say about this. I was working on the Healthy Empath book, and kind of just like in that space where it just, feels like you're just almost like channeling, just like writing from the heart. And, I'm kind of like learning as I'm writing. And it was this connection between your relationship with food and your relationship with God or, life. And a lot of the people that I work with, at some point we all have to heal the projections that we project onto God. And then it came up with food, and I saw that people's foods, the way people eat and like how people eat, is connected to the relationship with God or with life. And because food is life, right? Every time you eat, you're saying yes to life. And so, maybe you could talk about the fan diet in a moment, but like part of that is, does this make you feel alive? And so people who are just, eating food that doesn't make them feel alive, doesn't make them feel good, it's because they have this like kind of negative relationship with life, and maybe they're not sure why they're here, or they don't like have meaning. And does that bring up anything for you? Have you ever thought about that?
Well, so the book, the Super Wellness book, is based on the 6-week Super Wellness class that I've been teaching since 2012. And I'm a pretty easily bored person, and it's been a riveting journey of hosting this class, now 26. We're about to go into our, I think, 27th round of the class, because every time people teach me so much. And in the 6-week class, week number 4, we spent an entire 2-hour class doing mindful eating practice. And that class, the kinds of insights that people come up with, the kinds of things that people say, it sounds like Rumi or Hafiz had entered the room. And we put on blindfolds and we eat our food to learn about ourselves, is exactly what you're talking about. We chew every bite 30 times, 50 times, 100 times. We track everything about how it feels, all the sensations that are brought up, all the memories that are brought up. And towards the end of that exercise, the inquiry is, they say that how we do one thing is how we do everything. So as you experience this mindfulness of eating as if the very first time, getting so still, feeling all the sensations, what did you learn about yourself? How does your eating practice show you how you are in the rest of your life? And so what's so interesting is that immediately most people come to guilty thoughts, like, I'm to this, I'm to that, I'm to that. And so, which is fine, because we're here to learn and grow and improve and become a better version of ourselves. But I often have to prod even harder to invite people to drop into, what about the beautiful parts of your relationship with food? Let's focus on that. I'm just suggesting balance, Our minds tend to be so critical of ourselves. And maybe there's some beautiful things about your relationship with food that you'd like to magnify and cultivate even more. And so a lot of people say, wow, I'm adventurous with my food. I love to share. I love to be generous. I love to use food as creative outlet, as an art form. I love to use food to learn about different cultures. And so I encourage not only the room for improvement, but also the strengths that you want to cultivate, So a lot of times that brings up also people's connection with the spiritual dimension, exactly like you say. So getting deep into our eating is a really powerful practice. And I know you wanted me to share about this other piece besides the mindful eating, which is really, there's 2 pieces that I would love the audience to wrap their minds around that I think could be really powerful and helpful, which is, when you eat, there is 1, what you eat, and then 2, how you eat. Consider if you're already eating the perfect what, but maybe it's how, right? I don't know where people are at with that, but often people forget that both of those things are important, because good nutrition is not just what you eat, but what you're able to digest and assimilate properly into your body. And when we eat under stress, eat on the go, a lot of my clients are eating a really healthy diet, but they're just like, I make this joke, they're making expensive poop, because they're eating under so much stress, they're not even digesting and assimilating. It's just like, well, it's all in the toilet, and it's very expensive. So I suggest eating maybe less quantity, not by calorie restriction, but by slowing down and really savoring your food properly. And then when it comes to choosing what foods to eat, Mike, you had just mentioned about this fan diet. And should I explain the fan diet to your audience? Okay, so like I mentioned before, after many tens of thousands of dollars of different certifications, in clinical practice, I started to realize that I don't have one single patient that perfectly syncs up with any one diet. And that this is something that is not static at all. It's something that is constantly evolving. At different age groups, different seasons, your body is asking for different things. When you're very vigorous physical activities versus more, a little bit more mellow and sedentary lifestyle, like that changes everything. A woman's menstrual cycle has her physiology different each week of the 4 weeks of each month. She should be eating a little bit differently based on where in the month cycle. And what about, you guys are about to give birth. Congratulations. As a pregnant mama, I'm sure your wife has noticed completely different nutritional needs than
meat and sugar.
Okay. And then during nursing is completely different, right? And each pregnancy is totally different. My 2 babies, they needed different things, and they spoke to me about what nutrition they needed. So I would be missing out on a lot if I just listened to the so-called experts out there following some rigid diet instead of listening to the most expert nutritionist, which is what my body is showing me. So all of that is to say, I discovered is actually really simple, that every time we eat, we could just ask ourselves 3 simple questions. You guys ready for this? This is a game changer. I call this the diet that makes all future diets obsolete. 3 simple questions. It's called the fan diet. Question number 1, is this fun and tasty? Because your body will speak to you based on nutritional needs. For example, clinically, there's something called a zinc taste test. Everybody knows that zinc is really important for your immune system, for hormones, for a lot of things. If you're zinc deficient, you can actually drink this thing called the zinc taste test, which is like a diluted zinc solution, and it tastes like a really delicious mineral water to you. If you're not zinc deficient, when you drink this stuff, it tastes disgusting to you. Like people practically spit it out because it's so yuck. That's the kind of thing that happens when your body needs some vitamins and minerals. It will taste really, really good. If it doesn't need it, even though that vitamin and mineral is beneficial, oversaturating your system is not great either, right? So your body will speak to you. So fun and tasty, there is science and magic to that. So always listen to that. And of course, if it's not fun and tasty, and if you eat under a kind of like stress or because I'm obligated to, then your body's under stress and it's not going to digest and assimilate this stuff. So fun and tasty is rule number 1. And there's a reason that is rule number 1. So if you only focus on that, there's already magic there. Rule number 2 is when you eat something, do you feel alive? Do you feel a kind of like aliveness in your energy systems? Like, wow, that was a good energy that I received with eating this food versus, food that you eat and you immediately go into a food coma. We've all had that experience before. And so that's not some external person saying, this is good for you, this is bad for you. It's your body speaking. And so that becomes a sustainable way of so-called healthy eating. That is not about rigid, militant following of rules, but listening deeply and lovingly to what your body wants or doesn't want. And the third rule, so we've got fun and tasty. Does it make me feel alive? The third rule is, does it cause no negative effects? And that can take a little bit to tease out. And that's the reason why I support different ways, like different books and systems out there that helps you with some guidance about elimination diets or allergy testings, different ways to, it takes a little bit more work to tease out the negative effect piece. And so in our Super Wellness program, we do a juice cleanse. And then after taking a break off of suspicious foods for 2 weeks, then you can gradually reintroduce things one at a time to figure out what's causing possible negative effects in your physiology by eating certain foods. But by always asking these 3 questions, is this fun and tasty? Does it make me feel alive? Does it cause no negative effects? So many of my clients and patients have told me, wow, I've tried all my life, all different diets and programs, and finally I lost those extra 15 pounds. Finally, I found a joyful way of healthy eating that is sustainable, not just for this bikini season, but for the rest of my life. And this timeless principles that will never go out of style, whether I'm 30 or 80 or 100, whether I'm pregnant and nursing or single and not nursing, like it just it's simple principles that will always help you be successful in healthy eating. So I if I love the word fan too. We always say if it fulfills all 3 rules, I'm a fan. If it breaks any of these 3 rules, I'm not a fan.
That's too simple, It's supposed to be more complicated, right?
I know, right? And this is the spirit of so many things, and it feels like the same that you share too. It's like bring this kind of awareness to every aspect of life, not just the diet. So then the cracking the code on your diet or any one aspect of your health then becomes super interesting to you because it's there to show you something and teach you about the principles of life. So I feel like I cracked the code on healthy eating, and that showed me like, wow, I could apply the fan diet principle to everything. It's fun and tasty. Does it feel alive? Does it cause no negative effects? To my relationships. I like to talk to people like you where it feels fun and the conversation makes me feel alive and there's no weird energy that causes negative effects in my life. Just like it applies to everything, the businesses that you start, projects, everything, how you choose to approach your exercise routine. So I hope that the audience listening can choose to apply this not just to their diet, but consider this for all aspects of life.
Yeah. I taught very similar things with nutrition, but more lately, I've been applying it to movement as well, like you just said, because that's something that people are always looking to do, and helping women break out of this like calorie mentality
Yeah.
when it comes to exercise, and just it's really hard to do that. So if they can just kind of look at it as energy moving and then having fun and all these things that you mentioned, I think that's an extra great one to apply to the movement principles. There was so much in there, I don't even know what to comment on. One thing is interesting though, that with this relationship to life, right? Like, how you eat is how you live in a way. And one of the times in Mexico, when I was doing all this deep work, I had this experience for the first time ever. I never even knew I was doing this, that I ate without asking myself the question, did I have enough? And I realized that I asked myself that after every single meal. And every time I finished eating, I would go, did I have enough? I don't know. Like, should I eat more? And then I was able to see that translate into a broader picture of my life and how it related to like enoughness or scarcity versus abundance. And, always in this question, like, am I going to have enough? Do I have enough? And I was being able to see that so clearly in food, and then being able to have the experience for the first time to not ask that question, to, eat a light meal and feel totally nourished. I mean, I'm a little different than a lot of people listening. Mine was more related to, being like a big muscular meathead and like, oh, did I eat enough to keep my big muscles kind of thing, especially like, in college. And it was like cool to be big and bulky and just like kind of, seeing it there, but then also related to all, like this other scarcity stuff when I was there in Mexico, working on like the PTSD and safety and all this kind of stuff. So enoughness was related to that. And so, it was just like, wow, like it was such a cool feeling to just like finish a meal and be like, course I had enough. Like, that's not even a question. Like, that's not, like, the word enough doesn't even exist. It's not like that all the time right now. But there, deep in the midst of that work, man, that was incredible. So yeah, I recommend.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That is so powerful, and I'm sure all of your audiences, everybody can relate to that. The gift of expanding, the healthy living to understanding that it comes from things that are like natural sunshine and sleeping in darkness and time in nature and breathing, which is free. Thinking about the crowding out method, a huge side effect of that is you realize that all this free stuff is so crazily abundant, so abundantly available all the time. You feel like energy just overflowing out of you. And as a side effect, when you eat, it feels like almost like extra. And so putting all those pieces back into that correct context, I should say, a huge side effect is that you live in the state of abundance again, because you realize that nature and life and the universe is always got your back, and that it opens your eyes to see that actually the things you really, really need are so crazily abundantly available. There's not just like, oh, okay, I have enough. It's like, I have way more than I could possibly need. It's the experience of it. I know this just sounds like the philosophy, but I encourage all the listeners out there, take up a breathwork practice every day. Take up a practice of spending time in nature and sunshine. And it becomes not a philosophy anymore. It becomes just like, wow, a lived experience every day. And gradually over time, because the programming is so deep in our upbringing for all of us, through our school system, through the money system, so many things. But it takes a bit of time for us to really start to see like, wow, all the best things in life are completely free and so abundantly available, and just so grateful for the abundance that we all have, and wishing that everybody else could tap into that too,
For sure. And you've experienced this directly in your darkness retreat, correct? Right? When you, I'll let you explain it, but just all of a sudden, like when you weren't even hungry. I mean, I didn't go do that or near the length of it, but even when I just did like a few day vision quest, dry fast, the biggest surprise to me was like, oh my gosh, I didn't get hungry at all. And I didn't really even get thirsty except for this one like hour on the third night where it was a very interesting hour, but it wasn't even like a real like physical thirst. It was more of just like this kind of, I don't even know what to call it. But anyway, so yeah, I was just so surprised, like, how am I not hungry? So can you talk about, just like when you're truly in your body and free from distractions, you realize like food isn't even what your body is calling for. And then, when you come out into the quote unquote real world, there's more stressors and there's more, we're kind of eating, we're grounding, it helps with the distractions, but deep down in, like, you don't need that much food.
This is such a deep conversation because, okay, so I'll just give some background of what happened. In 2013, I went to this amazing retreat called the Dark Room Meditation Retreat. And some audience members might have heard about this, but if you haven't, I'll explain a little bit. So meditating for prolonged days in darkness is part of a lot of traditions. And the modern science is saying something like after you've saturated your melatonin levels, after about 3 days, you start to make consistent doses of DMT where you go into a visionary experience. So the ancient Chinese Qigong masters, the ancient yogis, the Egyptian alchemists, a lot of different traditions. There's a group in Colombia called the Kogi Mamas that have this practice of bringing up their shamans, teachers, and seers in a dark cave mainly, so that they perceive that non-physical reality so deeply that they're fully anchored into that dimension of life as the true reality, and this physical dimension as kind of like a projection of that, which is the case, but that's not most of our experience, right? We kind of know it because we've explored spirituality and consciousness, but these guys actually are brought up in that reality. And then when they're adults, they come back out into the physical world and interact with the rest of the people. And so I had the taste of that possibility by going into this retreat in 2013. for 11 days. It's an 11-day retreat where the first day and the last day were in the light, but the middle 9 days and 9 nights was in complete darkness. And it was in a retreat center called Tao Gardens in Thailand, which is started by Mantak Chia, famous Qigong master and author of, I don't know, maybe 30 books.
A lot of books.
Yeah. And so Mantak Chia has this specially built building where he tried to make the energetics of it as natural as possible, as like a cave as possible. So he built bricks using the local soil, and is a brick building that is trying to mimic the energetics of a cave. And then there is modern amenities, beautiful bedrooms around the perimeter. And the middle is a meditation hall where you have individual meditation mats for everybody to meditate in. And so Mantak Chia is awesome and famous and very powerful teacher. But I was not as drawn to his methodologies as I was to another teacher named Jasmuheen, who teaches in a much more soft and feminine and fluid kind of way, not as masculine. And so I felt drawn to Jasmuheen's way of doing dark room retreat. And so she rented the room, and she does this annually in March and April. And a group of people go in. The first day some people put on blindfolds to kind of practice navigating the building. And then the first night happens is lights out for 9 days and 9 nights. And what I discovered right from the get-go is I've lived in cities all my life, and I had never properly experienced darkness. And that I'm so hungry for complete darkness, and I didn't even know it. It was like a kind of food that I didn't know I was hungry for. You know, I realized that we all live in this kind of light pollution modern life, and most of us don't know how deliciously nourishing complete darkness could be. And the best analogy I could make is like, let's say you've been living in a polluted city all your life, and the air is not that good, not that clean, and all of a sudden somebody just teleported you into a rainforest, and you go, whoa, oh my God, I had no idea that it could be so delicious and nourishing to just breathe prana and oxygen, you know? It was like that with the darkness. And then gradually, at the first few days, I was so deeply restful. I slept almost like the whole time. And then by the 4th day, I was so well rested, I didn't feel to sleep for the subsequent 6 or 7 days. And so it was just a 24/7 visionary journey of so many insights and so much beauty and so much remembering of things.
Did it go by fast?
No, because you're not sleeping, a lot is happening. So many things. And kind of time is, not the same in the state, of course, and I'm sure you can relate to that. And the only thing is that Jasmuheen would ring a bell 3 times a day approximately. And when she rings a bell, you have about 15 minutes, if you choose to go from your bedroom to the meditation hall where you can join her for a guided practice, for example. And so there was some amount of structure, so I had a sense of what time of day it was. But towards the end, I was able to just perceive outside the building very easily. So I could just take my consciousness outside the building and see, oh, it's sunrise time. Oh, it's sunset time. I could just perceive that. But because this 24/7 continuous meditative state, it feels like lifetimes of things occur in that time. So in a way, it was very fast and very slow at the same time, because you're kind of, time is so different. You're kind of in a state that is beyond time and space, you know.
We were just so nourished by this experience that you didn't even get hungry the whole time?
So, medical disclaimer, everybody. I'm about to talk about something called breatharianism, which maybe you've heard about, this idea that you can be nourished directly by chi, by prana, by the energy that's moving through you in a deep meditative state. And And so I had the experience of complete loss of hunger where I didn't feel the necessity to eat. But I should also say that that is a very specific kind of physiological attunement that I don't think is that easy to achieve. It takes a lot of cultivation. And I'm concerned about people who research these things and don't have the right support system and go into prolonged fasting and doing dangerous, silly stuff, So please, if you choose to do prolonged fasting, please do a lot of research. Please be gentle and patient with your process, and please get the right medical or professional support to do it safely. I've seen people that jump right into, say, dry fasting and really hurt themselves, for example. So it's no joke. It's a serious matter and should be taken seriously. In darkroom retreat, most people have done a lot of different kinds of cleanses. They come into darkroom with very clean bodies to begin with. So I'd been on the health journey for like a decade and a half by that point, right? Done a lot of juice cleanses and different shorter fasts and many things like that. So by the time I went to darkroom, every morning, Jasmuheen guided us in this beautiful exercise of tuning into our bodies, talking with it, asking it, asking it how, can I pause for a second? Honey, what's going on? So in darkroom, every single morning, Jasmuheen guided us in this beautiful exercise of massaging and connecting with our bodies from head to toe and giving gratitude. And you don't have to do this in the dark. I encourage everybody to do this every day, maybe in the shower. But what happens is you become so deeply connected to your body that you start listening and dialoguing with your body in a different way. And I started having all these insights about past times when I wasn't always kind to my body and making amends with that and recognizing how I could be kinder to it in the future, how I could listen deeper to it. And so after you get into that state, she has you ask your body, what is your prana percentage? And what is your cosmic hydration percentage? I think that was the term that she uses. So she doesn't call it fasting. She calls it source feeding. This idea that when we're dropped deeply into that state of inner connection with source, that we can be nourished in a different way. So it's not really fasting. It's like we're all hybrid vehicles. We're nourished by our food, but we're always nourished by the breath, by the sunshine, by darkness, and by our inner spiritual connection. These things, there's like many ways to nourish ourselves. It's very fluid and flexible,
That reminds me real quick of something I heard I think Ram Dass say. He was talking about, he said, I didn't eat, and they told me I was fasting.
Yes. Good one. Exactly. So Jasmuheen calls it source feeding, that we're nourished by source. And she's like, people think we're not eating, but we're eating all the time. Like every millisecond we're being fed in this way. And so she has you ask, and it just so happened that my body was saying, I'm being 100% nourished by source right now. So I just took it day by day, listening to the body, and my body didn't ask for food. And so they provided juices, abundant amounts of juices, and my body was not asking for it. So I was just listening to that day by day. And by the fourth or fifth day, Jasmuheen said, are you drinking water? I think if you're dry fasting, quote unquote, I don't think she uses that term, but I'm getting guidance that you should be drinking water. So I started drinking water. There's water everywhere in this retreat, like every other corner. They make the water very easily accessible. So I had this unusual experience of the body having no hunger and hardly any thirst. And because the food and even water contains information, right? So all that taking of things from the outside in can be a source of distraction. And I didn't know if I would ever do that deep of a meditative journey again for the rest of my life. And so the not eating food was really a great gift because I could go really deep without distraction into the meditative state. And when you're in dark room, just like what I hear, I've not done ayahuasca, but other people that have done visionary types of journeys, you've all had this kind of experience where you go into a meditative state and you get this insight, right? This knowingness, this information comes through, but it also comes through in a 3D omnivision kind of like visual extravaganza of an experience. So when the information comes to you, you don't have doubt anymore because all your senses have been tapped into that knowledge. Your physical experience, that inner knowingness, but also the visual experience is so vivid that you have no doubt. And when you come out of an experience like that, you can't help but change your life. You know, it's going to change how you choose to live. You can't unknow what you've been shown, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's just such a cool experience to have gone through. And there's, so much in there. I'm sure you learned lifetime's worth of things from it and about yourself and about life.
Well, I never thought that those people, sorry to interrupt you, that the Kogi Mamas, I actually had the gift of on the energetic plane, a number of them came to visit and taught me a few things, and I'm so deeply grateful and so honored for that
Like
experience. What? And I had the realization interacting with them on that level, but also just from my experience of these 9 days and 9 nights were so profoundly life-changing. What if you lived 9 years or 18 years or 30 years, as some of them have, in this state? At the end of it, you're a completely different breed of human, right? Just like it's an alien from another planet would come here and be like, wow, how do these people like type so fast with their thumbs on this little screen? That is a miracle. It's because we spend many years cultivating that skill. Now imagine if you spend many years cultivating your inner spiritual connection. At some point, you might still look like you have a human body, but your expression of your humanness is completely different, you know?
Yeah. Wow. There's something I want to talk to you about. And because I heard you share this story about this connection with the Mother Earth. And yeah, I guess maybe it was perhaps the timing that I heard it or something. I don't know what, but I was crying as I was listening to it. And then I had my wife listen to it and she cried as well. And I think because it brought both of us back to experiences that we've had that were similar. And hers was quite intense through a long ayahuasca journey, connecting with the Mother Earth, becoming the Mother Earth, going through life cycles, experiencing the pain that the Mother Earth feels through her empathy for her children killing themselves, and how much she loves us. And I had multiple experiences over time, that time in Mexico, just really feeling so close to this Mother Earth energy, could talk to her at any moment, could, hear her clearly, and just, could feel lying down on the beach and putting my hands in the sand and like feeling it as if like, she had a hand in the sand holding my hand back, and this incredible, Temescal Sweat Lodge experience, where just like this rebirth, like all being guided by her. And so, yeah, I just felt this strong resonance. And I would also consider you a Mother Earth fractal. It's something that's come up a few times, and I was facilitating something for my wife Susie too, and like that came through. So these people are these souls who have a very close resonance with like the Mother Earth and like that frequency, and I can feel and see that in you as well. So the question that is coming out of here somewhere is something about one other point. And so we talked about this disconnection from ourselves, this disconnection from being human, and what Susie learned in her ayahuasca experience was that a lot of that is coming from the mother wound, right? The disconnection from the mother, no proper ceremony, ritual, going through birth when you're born, and, mothers who are not connected to themselves aren't allowed, able to provide that mother connection. So we're disconnected from the mother, which leads to this disconnection from ourselves. When we're disconnected from ourselves, we disconnect from the earth, and we don't treat the earth right, and we don't treat others right. And so, and I worry about children. I do. And I worry, especially right now with the social distancing and the mask, and I see all like the subtle levels of trauma that creates. But listening to you, you had a very inspiring message, which I can already kind of like feel the emotion in my chest and the chills, because I am concerned, and I don't know if I'm pessimistic about it, but like I'm just very deeply troubled with like the state of affair with how people treat children, and just the interventions that are used on them, and now the stuff with like the masks interfering with their connection to nature, their connection to themselves, their connections to what nature is, and then their ability to communicate with their peers, and then from the elders, because they're not able to see facial expressions, and then not even like Lucan the other day at the playground, like this mom wouldn't let these like little girls like play with them, and I got sad. It was like, they don't want to play with me. I'm worried. Can you help me out here a little bit? Yeah, to share some of that Mother Earth wisdom and the hope for the children and the light and what's going on here.
I know these are really the best of times and worst of times at the same time. I'll share my connection story with Pachamama first, but then I have more to share about the worries about children that I hope will give the same kind of inspiration that I've drawn from some of these insights. So first, the story of how I connected with Pachamama is.
And then this will go, if you go through explaining all this, it's going to go over the hour, and so I don't know, just making sure you're okay on the time. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, I have an appointment in 30 minutes.
Okay.
With another call. So yeah. Okay. So in 2014, we were pregnant with our boy, who was kind of making a cameo just now. And I felt so called to go to Peru. Like I knew I had to go. And I didn't quite know why. And so long story short, it just turned out that we didn't manage to go until I was 7.5 months pregnant with a huge belly, traveling to high altitude places, trekking up Machu Picchu, all this stuff. But it was glorious and beautiful. And this was a 10-day tour where within that 10-day tour, there was 3 days where they took you to Lake Titicaca. There's an island there called the island of Amantani, which is a very small island. And while there was a guided silent meditation that they gave us, and very nice people. We loved the experience, but the meditation just was it's like not that awesome compared to the beauty that was there everywhere. We're like, we might never come here ever again for the rest of our lives. So my husband and I and a couple other people, we would play hooky from the meditations and just go explore the island, and everybody was so friendly, and it was so just like such a glorious experience. And this island has a number of special sacred sites on it. And so the tour guide and the meditation teacher always once a day would take us to a different site to make sure that we got to explore the island, all the special places. And so on this particular day, my belly was so big, and my husband and I had been just trekking around, exploring so many things. And we're like, oh shoot, it's time to go back to the hostel and meet them for that special tour of the day. And so we rushed back to the hostel, met the group. And then I had to keep trekking, and I was cranky, thirsty, tired, just like my belly was kind of like, my hips are just kind of aching, and I was like kind of grumpy. And finally, we reached the site. I had been trekking all day and just not in the best mood at all. And the tour guide was seeing that, wow, my belly is really big and I'm kind of struggling trekking up these boulders to get to the site. So he held my hand to help me get over the last hump. And the site was this special rock called the seat of Inca, the Sillon de Inca. It's carved like a throne shape, kind of. And around it is those Incan stone walls. It's just a low wall all around it with an entry point where you can walk in. And in the center is this big rock that was carved in the shape of a big chair. And nobody knows how they had the technology to do that. And it was facing exactly a sunset view. And so the tour guide and the meditation teacher said, this is a place that is famous. We don't know why they built this. We think it's a beautiful place to meditate and with this facing the sunset. And that's why they set this up here. So people come here to be peaceful and to meditate. Well, I guess because I was the pregnant lady, the tour guide helped me there and put my hand on the rock. And boom, I don't know what happened. I lost access to my body. I just knew that suddenly I was seated on the throne on this rock. And the moment I'm seated on this rock, faces. So many faces were shown to me. Faces, thousands of faces. And I knew that these are beings that had sat there and received transmissions, and they were all different colors, shapes, sizes, all across millennia. Faces. Warriors, shamans, seers, teachers, regular people. Faces. So many faces. And then when the faces were done, mandalas. All these shapes, mandalas, colors, mandalas. And a column of energy came over me. And you can relate to this. It's like a packet of information so huge that there's no chance that your conscious mind could even process what just happened. Is this intense download or upload? It was an upload, actually, of information. And when all of that finished, then this beautiful, loving energy of Pachamama came embracing me. And the embrace was a kind of love that I could have never even imagined was possible. And it was so motherly, so clearly a motherly kind of love. This complete unconditional love. And in the presence of the potency of that kind of love, all I could say was, I'm sorry. I felt, I'm sorry. I started seeing and remembering all those polluting things I've done in this lifetime and all the stupid things that we humans do, just wrecking this place. And I just kept saying, I'm so sorry. And she had no judgment about any of it. She just said, oh, honey, welcome home. She was just so happy that for us to just return home to her. And so she started saying, no, honey, it's okay. Kind of like the way that my kids, my daughter just started eating solids recently. She's 6 months, and when she eats, it's so cute and so messy. It's like, and you love them even more. Anybody who's a parent or caretakes for cute babies, you can relate to this. That was what she showed me, that she actually just loves us completely, despite all of the messiness. And she shared with me all those times when we're in nature and we caress a rock or hug a tree or just like admire a beautiful flower or spend time to watch the birds come and go and just be in that kind of connection. She says, I live for that. Look at all the good. She wanted us to see that, not just be guilty about all the crap that we've done. And regarding the crap she showed me, she's like, you guys are like basically toddlers and you're going to grow up to be teenagers and you'll start cleaning up after your own room, so to speak. That was the energy.
1,000 years.
Yeah, that was the energy that she had. She understood that we were in an immature phase of our evolution, and she loves us completely and unconditionally. And there was just not even the tiniest ounce of guilt or judgment about it. That she understood that as we wake up to a more mature level, that we will naturally clean up after ourselves, And so she showed me all those times where I went into meditation, sending my love and appreciation to the earth. Or all those times when I've led groups, small groups, larger groups, in a guided visualization where we go into a state of gratitude and appreciation and then send that down into the earth to ground and root and center ourselves. we think of those as a visualization exercise. And she says, you think that's a visualization exercise? That is what I live for. I live for those moments that you remember. I live for those moments that you'll choose to come home. And so it was like in the Bible, they have this prodigal son story. It was like a prodigal daughter returning kind of story for me to just, it's kind of hard to find words to describe. All I experienced was just avalanches and avalanches of tears in that experience. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing and so beautiful. And I realized that there was a reason that I experienced that while pregnant 7.5 months with a baby in my belly, because she showed me what it means to be a mother. She showed me a possibility that I have never seen in the human realm. That this was the best parenting lesson I could have possibly received. And that, I know you found me through another podcast. I shared a little bit of the story of how my husband and I didn't even plan to have kids. But it was through, after that darkroom retreat, and we moved to the countryside to have a more nature-filled lifestyle, and my meditations and dreams started getting really vivid, and our boy came to basically negotiate his conception. So we didn't have a lot of plans to be parents, and I didn't know how to be a parent. And so here is Pachamama showing me what it means to be a mother, what that feels like, you know. So eventually I thought, wow, that was the most intense and beautiful 5 minutes of my life. What an amazing experience. And when I woke up, when I opened my eyes, my husband was standing there with a towel, waiting to wipe down just the avalanches of tears on my face and all over my shirt. And then the sun had set, so it was like an hour or two had elapsed. It felt like 5 minutes. And I was a changed person forever. And since then, it opened a portal where I'm able to go into nature, and sometimes not even in nature, just at home, sitting in my living room. Suddenly I get this impulse to connect with her again, to connect with her even more deeply. And so recently, with so many things happening, all the racial tensions and debates, and just feeling like, wow, we're all going through such a powerful and intense initiation, all of us, you know. And so I felt a calling from Pachamama, so I just like sat my butt down and locked in, and she had a message for us. And the message was essentially, thank you. Congratulations for growing up. You guys are like teenagers now. You're waking up to cleaning up after yourself, so to speak, you know? And so she says, look, you know, I'm doing some cleaning up on the planet, and I see that many of you guys are helping me. So she just wanted us to know thank you. She's so grateful that there are so many of us that have grown past our toddlerhood stage, and we're more like teenagers now, and we're helping, like we can clean up after our own rooms again, and so to speak. And so the big message she wanted to share was that, you know, sometimes when you do a cleanup project, it looks worse before it gets better. Like if you had to clean up a whole attic, you know, it's like you got to figure out, like, okay, what do you want to keep? What do you want to discard? What needs to go to Goodwill, and what do you want to reorganize in a different place? And it looks real messy for a moment in time. So she said, please beware of the full scale of what's going on, and not judge each snapshot in time as if that's what is really going to be. As things are evolving so fast, beware of where your mind gets stuck in the storyline of what is appearing to be in one snapshot in time. Day by day, even hour and hour, things are evolving so fast right now. So she really wants us to step back and see that this is like a cleaning up the attic kind of project that is going to change a lot, and there's nothing but beautiful goodness that is on the other side of this, and that we do ourselves a great disservice and possibly waste a lot of energy by standing there looking at the mess and being like, oh my God, this is a disaster. It's like, no, just we're all in this cleaning up together, and there's a lot of light workers and light bearers. We're all doing it too. And so just recognize that Pachamama is doing it. She's doing the cleanup, and there's a lot of people, I'm sure everybody listening to this show is doing their perfect piece of the puzzle that is all unfolding perfectly. And beware of where your mind plays games with you, thinking that it looks messy right now and is only just a snapshot in time. With regards to the children, I was given this kind of funny vision that, there's a lot of schools that are making announcements about different things, and you see pictures on the internet of all these different things that they're doing, like having children play in the playground, but they're going to put chalk squares around it so they cannot touch each other and so on, right? Like children having to sit in little desks and put like boxes around it so that they are segregated from other children, all this kind of silliness. And I was given a vision of like a lot of these kids are just gonna, because children are so joyful and fun.
You're gonna break those rules.
Exactly. And it's gonna be hilarious how that unfolds. It's gonna be total comedy show. So I am so just like feel so grateful for all those powerful, courageous souls that chose to be incarnated as children in those kinds of systems to break it from the inside out through a comedy show. And then there are those of us that feel called, like my family, we feel called to just do homeschooling, unschooling, and take a different path. But there's every piece of that puzzle is important. It's all unfolding perfectly is the point. That I keep getting these really exciting visions of how we're all here for that purpose of transformation, and we all have a really critical piece of that puzzle to be part of. And there's no accidents here. And in a way, our job as parents is to give our children the best possible lives, but also our children are very courageous and powerful in their own right. So in a way, oh honey, can you be more gentle with the sounds? So in a way, I think, our children also know that they incarnated here for this time, because it is the most exciting time in the cosmos. And my boy tells me at nighttime, at bedtime, he tells me stories about everything he remembers from before he came to planet Earth.
Wow.
And he tells me that he's 5.5 right now. Yeah. In another conversation, I can tell you the whole story, but the gist of it is that he tells me that there's tons of souls on a waiting list trying to get here, because this is such an exciting time, and so, and even if they're not here, they're watching on these screens the drama that is unfolding on planet Earth, because it is the best possible learning experience right now. So I want to say congratulations, you won the cosmic lottery to get one of these lifetimes here. We are the winners. Let's take maximum advantage of this opportunity to learn and grow and make the absolute best out of it, So it's a very intense moment in time for all of us, but it's also the most exciting ever. So I just want to say congratulations to everybody for a job already well done, and keep going.
Oh, so wonderful. All of it, each pieces. Thank you for sharing all that. And, as you were talking to, I was reflecting on my relationship with the Mother Earth, and having felt that just pure unconditional just like care and love, like support, like, it makes you just want to cry talking about it. And I was so intimately connected there in Mexico. When I got back to New Hampshire, I was not, and it was so painful. I was like, where are you? What happened? Like, I thought I was like super psychic, like, wow, and awesome. And like, I was like, hey, how come I don't have this ability to like connect the way that I do. I mean, I always could if I'm on like a session with someone, if like I really sat down, but I was like, where is that? And then, yeah, I just was reminded of, when I was there and just like being like this like toddler and Mother Earth holding my hand through all of these experiences. But then someday you get to go out to school on your own, or your unschooling adventure on your own without mommy holding your hand. And so I was like, yeah, I'm not going to continue to hold your hand and, whisper sweet words in your ear every single, time you feel upset. It's just like, you went through the training, you went through the healing. Now live it. Now go. I'm still here for you always, but you need to be free. You need to become an adult.
Well, that's such I'm so glad you brought that up, because that we see that so much, don't we? People go on meditation retreats, or even just like any old like personal growth workshop, right? You have this aha moment, this insight, but that's just a beginning, actually.
The training.
Yeah, the real work is, can you embody it and actually live that way more consistently every day? And so it can be addicting, right? To go back like, oh, I just want to feel that blissfulness. But now that's actually just to open a portal of possibility. Then you need to learn how to generate that state consistently and live out of that state consistently. And that's the game. That's the whole point of this human existence.
Yeah. And so you go through these experiences and you think like that's like the real work, and then it's like, I did it. And then what I like reflected on and use Star Wars analogy, I think I got the point right, but it was like, no, bro, it's like, you are Luke Skywalker who hasn't even left Dagobah yet, or whatever the planet was when he was training with Yoda. It's like, you're still there, like, or it's like you just left there, like that, like that like intense healing work that you were doing, like that wasn't the hero's journey, the full hero's journey. That's part of it. But now it's living it. It's being it out in the world. And it was like, oh, yeah.
A friend of mine had
crap.
Yeah, a friend of mine had a really good way of expressing it that really made sense for me, if I can share. He said, okay, so we all have this old programming that we want to delete and let go of, so that we can live a new version of ourselves that's more inspired, more connected, more empowered, all the beautiful things. The thing is that if you do your spiritual work to, quote unquote, delete the old disempowering or traumatic patterns, right? You want to get rid of those old patterns. The mechanics of it is such that you do the spiritual work, then life has to put you back into those situations. And then you choose to meet those situations in a different way. He calls it what does he call it? Like the confirm delete. It's like, that's when you press the enter button of changing the programming. So so you do your inner work, you do your spiritual awakening practices, and you have all these beautiful insights, then you should almost just expect that life is going to throw you some curveballs. At that point, that's when the real deleting old patterns actually happen. You can't move on until life has thrown you that curveball, so you show it through direct physical experience of it. And that's when the real transformation actually occurs.
Yeah. So it's like, careful what you pray for, because, you'll get something sent your way, right? If you want to know faith, then prepare to know doubt. And
that's why so many people, myself included, when you have your first big aha kind of awakening mystical experience, it's often followed by a dark night of the soul.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And so we're very blessed these days that we have the accompaniment of so many like-minded souls on the planet all waking up at the same time, so we don't have to feel as lonely. Even though nobody can do the work for you. You have to do it yourself, but at least we can feel supported in that journey.
Yeah, definitely. Reminds me of, I was recording a solo episode, and what another teaching came through of like for me, the purpose of life, what I came to understand through an experience was get messy, have fun.
Yeah.
That's it. Jump into that messy human experience and have some fun. And then you have to remind ourselves. Thank you so much for this. It's been a blast. It feels nourishing to my soul. And where can people follow you, learn more, connect with you, get access to your program?
Um, it's just people kind of find me magically. I'm not very good at marketing myself, and the right ones always, we just attract each other. So I think there's definitely unseen non-physical forces at work here, how you and I found each other. But on a more official level, I have some websites. If you're interested in super wellness, there's a book called Super Wellness. You can find it on Amazon, but you can also explore our website, superwellness.com. So that's specific to the wellness work. I also have a podcast that you guys will love. I guarantee you'll love it so much. I've had all kinds of world-class, amazing guests that are exploring the frontiers of human possibilities, like my friend Wim Hof and Jazz Muheen, who held the Darkroom Retreat. Her conversation was amazing. All kinds of really amazing beings that have blessed my show with their wisdom. So you can get to the show via thedreshow.com, thedreshow.com. And then I'm on Facebook. A lot of people are transitioning to MeWe. I'm in that transition too. And on Instagram intermittently. But if you go to thedreshow.com, then that will take you to a lot of the other things that I do, because that's connected to my kind of personal website. Yeah.
Yeah,
And just like you can reach out, send me an email, and I'd love to invite you guys to some of my upcoming classes and workshops. Like, for example, every Thursday night I go on Facebook Live to do a breathing practice with the community, and I teach a lot of free classes. And a few times a year we run those 6-week super wellness courses where I'll support you in a guided journey of 6 weeks to dramatically upgrade on all levels your self-care and your wellness. So I'd love to support you guys in that too. Yeah.
Amazing. All right, everyone, check it out. And yeah, again, thank you so much for being here. That's a wrap.
Thank you.